everybody. No. Hello, everybody.
That's better than the first one.
Hello.
That's the same.
I don't know how to do this anymore.
Just normal.
Hello, everybody.
Oh.
We're back with another episode. Translating love.
I can't tell if you're like having a stroke
Stroke
or like
and
an
orgasm. I have a strokegasm. We're back, everybody. We're back from hibernation.
Hibernation?
Yeah. We have been on hibernation.
We've been, at least I've been just laying in the summer sun doing nothing but that.
Yeah.
Except work.
Right. We have been doing work, a lot of work. But it was nice to, turn off the grind for at least the podcast grind and just let it be for now and just focus on other stuff and not prepare things all the time and just
just not have to think about it for a while. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and try to, get the creative juices flowing again a little bit. Fluing. And think about what we want to do, if we want to continue the podcast and how it should go, and all that stuff that people think about when they have a podcast. And as you can see, we got much better in doing the podcast.
Clearly.
But so what happened the last couple of weeks, Danielle?
What do you mean? I mean, work.
Work?
More work. My mom's coming to visit. And then my dad's coming to visit.
Yeah.
That's super exciting.
That is exciting. I think a lot of things happened. We stopped, the last episode was when? June?
I think so. End of June, maybe?
End of June or something?
Yeah, the last one I think aired when I was in Holland. So that was the last weekend of June.
And the reason why, it's funny, the reason why we decided to stop for a while was partly because you came back and I made you quarantine.
So obnoxious.
And that was also good because then we were like, okay, maybe we should just stop for now and take a little break, because we basically released an episode each week for over almost 1.5 years.
And at the beginning, we used to do it we would record a couple, within a couple of days and then release them once a week. But I would say the majority of them, we literally record one every single week, edit it, and put it out.
Right.
So that got to be a little too repetitive and too almost stressful to... You felt like on Monday or Tuesday, you started feeling like, oh my God, we have to think of a topic. What do we have to do? It started to feel...
I wouldn't say stressful, but the problem is there was pressure there, which was kind of good because, you had to put something out. But at the same time, I think that pressure made us release some episodes that might have not been so good or might have not been so interesting in terms of the topic, or maybe of our preparation, or maybe of how we approached the topic. And that was also a reason why we said, okay, let's maybe take a step back and see, let's stop for now and see, okay, do we still want to continue it, and where do you want to go with it? And I think we both decided to continue it. Otherwise, we wouldn't do that right now.
Bye.
But we also said, okay, we want to keep pushing forward in the direction we already been doing, having guests on, talking about relationship stuff, but also stuff that is part of relationship,
part of our relationship specifically.
Right. And also just trying to have interesting topics, interesting people with their knowledge or whatever, experts and shit. That would be cool. And yeah, we're trying to deliver on that, but we're also trying to deliver more on personal stuff and things that has been going on with us. And so this episode, I wouldn't say it's a full episode. It's more what we're back and basically just a little, I don't know, like what happened in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so why don't you talk about what happened in the last couple of weeks?
There were a lot of things. So I almost had a burnout. That was fun. I wouldn't say burnout, but I scratched on the surface of like going down there, and I had to literally take a week off work, sick leave basically, to really do nothing. And I needed the time. By like the end of the week, I was slowly coming down, and I felt like the urge of, or the motivation to work again stronger. And it's coming back, or it is back a little bit already. But yeah, that was not fun at all.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of like video shoots and a lot of work. And yeah, that made it not better. But yeah, that went past, and I started therapy because of that, and because of my anxiety, because we did an episode of anxiety, I think, like
pretty early on in the podcast.
Nah, the second to last episode we did was also an anxiety, I think, called Anxiety Never Fully Leaves or something like that. I don't know, something like that. But I started therapy, and that's going pretty well.
That's good.
And the fun thing is I basically started therapy the first time with a man on man. And we smoke cigars and eat meat and talk about women. No, it's
sounds like a good therapist.
Yeah, it's very liberating. No, it's really nice. He's a really nice therapist, and I have had a really good feeling in the first time I went there, and it's definitely something I needed. The shitty thing is, for me, it's always like when I'm on the brink of, like, I don't know, a breakdown or something, I'm like, oh, I should go to therapy. It's not like, maybe I should go to therapy during the year to avoid something.
That's what's so funny. Like, we started going to therapy exactly for that reason, to prevent any, like, I mean, sure, we had some things we wanted to talk about and to, like, work on, but it wasn't like we were at a crazy, a crazy point in our relationship or something.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just like your own personal mental health, you just kind of wait until. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah. So that happened.
But you've been twice now, right?
I've been twice now, and I'm going back at the end of August at some point. Yeah, and yeah. Otherwise, we had like a little fight or like fallout, because I did something stupid. If you want to elaborate, we can. You don't have to.
We can.
We can, totally. Sure. Should I set the story up?
I think you should set it up, because then it's coming from your perspective and not mine.
So I did nothing wrong, and no. I was basically after the week of sick leave, and I was working again, and I had this video shoot, and I texted with my ex, and she wanted to give us like some samples of protein powder already like years ago, and we never really came together, or it never happened. So, and I was near her on that day, and so it happened to be like an option, so I could meet her and get the protein powder basically. And I texted you to ask you if that's okay that I meet her to get the protein powder, and then I come home. And you said yes to that. And
which for me, it was a big thing, because we've talked about this briefly on our podcast before, but this particular relationship has for some reason always been kind of hard for me, because they were, they weren't together that long, but still they're really close for two people who are exes and share some kind of personal things sometimes. And so it's kind of been a difficult one for me. And there has been lying about this relationship in our past.
Yes.
And so it's very triggering for me overall.
Yes.
So for me to just be like, okay with like, yeah, sure, you can go meet up with her alone.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's a big step, but I wanted to prove that I'm like moving forward and working on stuff.
So, and then it happened that I don't remember how or when, but so I basically went to her house then and picked the stuff up there, and I stayed for a few minutes and met her son, and then I went back home. And I did not tell you before I went to her house that I went to her house and got the stuff. And yeah. And
I mean, what happened that you kind of left out is that you had texted me without me. I didn't ask where you were meeting her, but you had texted me.
Right, that I meet her somewhere. Yeah, right.
Somewhere like in public, like in a parking lot or something.
Right.
And I said I was okay with that. And in my head, I had told you before, like in the past, like at some point I might be okay with like you two meeting up, but I would never be okay with it being at her house or apartment or whatever.
Right.
And so I had remembered saying that. So I almost, in the moment that he texted me that he was going to meet her in a parking lot, I almost texted, okay, but please not at her house. Because I just had this weird, partly a feeling, partly just anxiety. But I was like, no, he knows that. So I didn't say anything.
So, yeah, and then she couldn't come, or she couldn't like get out of the house because of her son still asleep or just waking up. And I was done with the shoot, so I dropped by her house, got the stuff, met her son, and then went home.
No, but you had told
But I told you that I would meet her at the parking lot.
But you had also told me that that was never really in the plan.
Right.
To meet. So like you and her had never really made a plan to meet at this specific place. It was just let's meet up.
Right. So, and then I went home and I basically wanted to tell you that I went to a house, but you asked me before that. And so I admit to it. And I wouldn't say we had a fight. Would you say we had a fight?
I don't know that it was a fight, but the thing that was so hard for me is that even it was like him falling back into old habits, and I trust him to the point where I know he wouldn't like do anything with it. Like there's no like physical thing there.
But that's not the point.
Just
the point is that
he's so used to lying because he thought that it was like helpful to me in some way, like it's easier that way.
I think we talked about that in one
episode. I think
episode.
We did too.
But yeah, that was the point.
I think it was
just
just hurtful.
For me, I mean, we talked about this. For me, it was like there was such a big and long stretch where things like that never came up again, and we were such in a good space where we were honest together, and where we, it never came up, and it would have never came up anyways, and then this situation occurred, and without even thinking about it, I fell back into this old habit of doing that without even thinking about, okay, maybe it started off honestly like, hey, should I meet her or can I meet her to get that stuff?
Yeah, but at that point you already had the plan to meet her.
Right, but it started off like, okay, I'm trying to be sincere, and then it backfired immediately, which is so stupid, but it did, and that also showed me like that it's not something I'm over. It's still something I have to work on, and it's still there. Well,
the way that I approached it, once I realized that a lot of what you had said was not true, I kind of approached it as I really tried not to approach it with anger, which I think I did a decent job of, at least at first. But I was trying to say, like, this is kind of our first test with this situation, because we've worked through a lot of it over the years, but we've never really been tested on it since we've worked so much. Yeah. And so for me, that's exactly what I saw it as right from the start. As soon as you asked me, hey, would you mind if I meet up with her? I instantly said yes.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like, it was not comfortable. It was a horrible feeling, but I was like, this is my test. Yeah. This is the first time we're being tested with this, and I need to, not only for myself, but also for us, show that I'm like doing something.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, that's why it was partly hard, but partly like kind of understandable, because you failed the first test.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, but it's the first, and sure, it doesn't feel good. But I think the harder part for me was because like I said, I had a feeling as soon as you said a parking lot, I was like, I mean, that's bullshit. Like I knew it was not true. And I didn't think it was her house maybe, but I don't know. But that's exactly why I texted you after. If you guys want to hang out after, I would be okay with that. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Because I figured, okay, they're like going out to get coffee or something, and you would just rather say you're meeting in a parking lot.
That was never the plan, anyways.
No, I know, but I was just saying that's why I said, because I knew the parking lot thing was bullshit, and I just didn't feel like addressing it then, which is why I then asked you later when you came home. But I think what was harder for me in that moment was that you kept building on it even after I asked about it.
Yeah.
So it's like I asked about it and I said, did you really go to a parking lot? And you're like, no, I actually met her at her house because she couldn't meet at the parking lot. Where it's like, you're still keeping that as part of the story.
Yeah, but to me, I mean, that was the original plan. I drove to the parking lot. I parked even there. I was there. That was my original plan to actually do that. But then it turned out that it couldn't work anyways. So I know, but didn't.
But by the time you texted me that you were meeting in a parking lot, you already knew you were going to her house. That's my point.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
No, we talked about that.
Yeah.
You said by the time that you asked me or told me we'd meet in a parking lot or something, you were already like on your way to her house, basically. And so that lie got built upon even after the fact.
Yeah.
And then you kind of got mad at me for questioning it, like getting mad at me for not trusting you, which then makes me feel bad because it's like I'm not trying to not trust you, but
I didn't get mad. I wouldn't say I get mad.
You got defensive though.
I got defensive, yeah.
When it could have just, for me, it's like in that situation, it's just better to say, I'm sorry, you're right, I fucked up, or I wasn't honest about that.
Yeah.
Rather than just like building upon it.
But I think in the grand scheme, I mean, I know what I did wrong, and I know that I have to work on that stuff still, and that it's still there. That I have to be aware of it, and that I have to actively do something against it. Mm-hmm. And I know I can do that because I did it in the past already. So it's something I got too comfortable with, and then I slipped. Yeah. It's not an excuse, and I still feel bad for it because you showed me a big sign of trust and a big sign of, look, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and I trust you with this, and I fucked it up basically. But I
appreciate you saying that you like recognize.
No, I do. And I appreciate you saying yes to it, because you could have also said no and I would have never done anything. You know, I would have driven home right away. But even that, it's a shitty excuse because you said yes and I still fucked it up. But I think in the grand scheme, I think we handled it pretty well with some slip-ups afterwards.
So too. Yeah, I should also admit to be but if you tell your faults, then I tell mine too. I think it's only fair. After some time.
Sex with
Get away from That's not cool. No, after some time, it wasn't right away, even as tempted as I was, but I fell also back into old habits. And after I felt like he was still not telling me the whole truth, even though I asked him about it like days after, I looked into his phone, which I shouldn't have done, just to like confirm something that I felt like I knew. And that also was not okay, because that's also breaking trust.
Yeah, that happened. So now you know the story.
It's just one of those things. I think this is why honesty is so important. And from my perspective, maybe you can share it from your perspective, like why you think it's so important. But from my perspective, especially in a situation where it's a sensitive situation, because this exact kind of like that relationship has been so sensitive to our relationship in the past. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that, like you said, like I let myself be uncomfortable and I showed you that I trust you, to have it kind of like thrown back in my face was really hard. Yeah. But I think also because, and I told you this, but as the person who got lied to, I'm the one kind of stuck with the aftermath of it all.
Yeah.
The person who lies, and maybe I'm wrong, this is just how I feel, but the person who tells the lie, the worst thing that can happen is they get caught.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the worst part, that's the worst of it. Once you get caught, it's almost like a relief. Yeah. Like, okay, it's out there, then it's not hanging over my head anymore. But for the other person, in my side of it, I have trust shit right now that I'm like trying to like build back up again. And I have like these like small anxieties revolving around the situation, and I'm hurt by it. And it's just kind of like now I feel like a lot of the work that I did was not for nothing, but it's kind of like I feel like I take a step back and I have to rebuild a lot, and that sucks.
I don't think you took a step back. It just it hurt you, and it hurt where it hurts. But I think the fuck, I lost the train of thought. God damn it. No, but I think that the whole thing showed me again, which I already knew, but it confirmed again to me that especially with this relationship to that person, and especially with handling those things, I should be especially honest and especially forward, because it not only helps you to see, okay, I'm honest, I'm telling you everything, I'm putting all of my cards on the table, but at the same time, it also helps me to. It helps me, I think, to see that if I'm being honest, and I know that because it happened before, that the outcome is much better, and for you and for me, because you feel less anxious then, maybe a little bit at first, but then it's not as bad, you know. And we talked about this multiple times before, and also in the lying episode, that as you said, the lying is, it comes out and then all the shit starts, you know. Lying is such a small thing in the grand scheme of it. It's like the tip of the iceberg. And once the lie's, you know, uncovered, there is a lot of shit that comes down.
Especially if the lie's gone on, not saying this one did, but if the lie's gone on for a long time, where it's like it keeps getting built upon and built upon and built upon. Right.
And also if it involves a subject matter that might be a dicey in the first place, then there's a lot of things you have to rebuild trust, and you have to, both people unfortunately have to work on it. And yes, as you said, the person who got lied to has to do a lot of things on her or his or their own, which the other person obviously should support and be as supportive as possible to, you know. And with that, I mean, obviously being honest and trying to show honesty and trying to show, hey, I'm trying to work through that for whatever reason. Yeah.
And I think that's a hard thing about lying in general also, is I think building trust back up in terms of like once lying has been involved is one of the hardest ways to build trust.
Yeah.
Because you can't see it. You can't see if somebody's lying unless you're like really good at reading people. That's true. But I mean, I tend to have like feelings sometimes where I'm like, I feel like that's not totally true, just based on, you know, maybe how you phrase something or what. It just sometimes feels weird. But, and like I said, and I told you this, I hadn't had that feeling in so long. So, and I usually trust my gut. Yeah. So I'm like, I believe that he has stopped the little lies and all this. Yeah. Like, I truly believe that. But then all of a sudden in that moment, I'm like, that feels like it used to feel, you know, it's like this weird thing.
Yeah. Like Scooby-Doo has.
But yeah, I think it's just it's hard to build that trust up, because it's like you just have to trust. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to just say, okay, whatever they tell me is true from this point on. It's not easy. And so I think that's kind of where I'm struggling a little bit right now. Not that I don't trust things that you say, but in the back of my mind, sometimes I'm like, is he really going there?
I know. But to end on the light note, we watched a Wes Anderson movie last night called The Chilling.
Let's like round that topic out before
I think we rounded it up.
I don't think it's rounded out.
No, I think so.
That was like a weird, blunt place to.
No, but it's on purpose, because first of all, it's already going too much.
No, but I mean rounded up by in a quick.
I didn't round it up.
No, just that if you're in that situation, try not to let anger take hold of you, because that's what I used to do, and I felt like this time it was really, really helpful to not let anger be the first emotion.
I mean, both of us, though.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about how I personally handled it. And then to work with each other. And, you know, if you're the person who did the deed, not to just be like, oh, I'm out of the I'm like done now because it's out and I don't have to do anything else. Yeah. So, but to like be there for the other person and vice versa to help each other.
Yeah. But on a lighter note, we watched a Wes Anderson movie last night called The Darjeeling Limited. And it's from 2007. And it's a great movie about brothers and brotherhood and friendship. And it's technically a road movie on a train. So it's technically a drain movie. But it's a really nice movie, and if you love Wes Anderson or Owen Wilson, then you should definitely check it out.
I mean, if you don't know who Wes Anderson is, I highly encourage you to watch all of his movies because
and his new one is coming this year called The French Dispatch, and I can't wait.
My personal favorite is The Royal Tenenbaums. If you have never seen The Royal Tenenbaums, watch it.
My
great cast,
personal
great
favorite
movie.
is the what is Fox? The Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
The Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's my favorite.
So great.
But that's it, everybody. So by next week, we will be back with a regular episode. I mean, this was already a little topic themed, but next week we will have another topic for you. And as we say every time, if you like what you hear, please consider subscribing. It helps us. Rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcast and share the podcast if you like what you hear. And also, if you want to, tell us something or give us feedback or just want to talk to us or have a topic suggestion, you can reach us on our Instagram or website or Anchor page.
Yep. Bye. Bye-bye.
Hey, I'm Kara, host of the Conquest of Bliss podcast, a show designed to help people explore well-being in a casual setting. The thing is that I spent a super long time searching for well-being, and once I finally started to gather some of the tools and understanding, I started wondering why it was so hard to access in the first place. So, the Conquest of Bliss was born. And even though it still feels extremely vulnerable, every week I release a new conversation about important topics that make up our well-being. Amazingly, I get to spend my time talking to experts like neuroscientists and psychologists, and lay people like plumbers, authors, and yoga instructors, all helping me working together to create a diverse, expansive library of conversations around what happiness and well-being are, what tools we can use to get there, and what it looks like sometimes when it plays out in the real world. If you want to join me on my journey, The Conquest of Bliss is available anywhere podcasts are found.